Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya, Suryakoti Samaprabha, Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva, Sarvakaryashu Sarvada. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. A warm welcome on behalf of Param Vedanta to the 80th session of GIFT, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation. We continue with the 14th chapter today, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Our body-mind complex is a mixture of the Atma Tattvam and Prakriti, the material aspect. Our true nature is beyond the gunas, and Prakriti, or matter, at all times presents itself in the form of one predominant guna and the other two gunas playing subservient to it. Each guna binds us differently. We cannot see these gunas. Today, we study the indicators called lingam to find the dominant guna in us. Understanding and assessing the dominant guna of our instruments will help us understand where we stand, adopt the appropriate sadhanas, and finally be established in the true self. Our moderator for the day is Dr. Komal. Our respects to him and the other speakers of the day, Srimati Vidyaji, Dr. Sanjay Malhotra, Srimati Sharmilaji, and Dr. Chandrakala. Over to you, Dr. Komal.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadhashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We are seeing the 14th chapter, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. We saw about the three gunas, the introduction to three gunas, Satva, Rajas, and Tamas, which are the parts or which are born out of Prakriti. So they fasten, nibandhante, they fasten the changeless self in the body. This is what Sri Krishna has told Arjuna, what we saw. Now, the thing we have to remember here is every individual, as we speak, for that matter, anything, any being, any matter, living or non-living, is made of two portions, Sakshi Amsha and Ahankara Amsha, higher part and lower part. Sakshi Amsha is the pure Chaitanyam, the original consciousness. Ahankara Amsha is the lower part, which is having two things. One is inert body-mind complex, the reflecting medium, which we can imagine as a mirror, which is reflecting the original consciousness, like you can imagine the sun. So the reflection of the sun in the mirror is the reflected consciousness, pratibhimba, borrowed consciousness. That's the other part of the ahankara amsha. So we have original consciousness, reflecting medium, and reflected consciousness. Here, this reflecting medium is a very curious, peculiar entity which makes us think, and we just assume it as something which is there in Vedanta. We have to remember it. The importance of that will be very clear once we understand that this reflecting medium is Prakriti, and Prakriti is reflecting medium, and Prakriti is made up of these three gunas, and this reflecting medium is nothing but these three gunas. Guna is not an attribute here. It's the substance of the Prakriti itself. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are not attributes of a substance. They themselves are the substances which are the first products of the original substance called Prakriti. That's a little hard to digest. It takes a while, and we'll have to get into this paradigm to go further. It's like telling our body is predominantly made up of, or it's entirely made up of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. If we say our body is made up of these three, suddenly we'll feel How is it possible? We have bones, we have other tissues, muscle, brain, liver. That's one way of classification. The other way of classifying, to make it more simplified, is to call it as, okay, body is generally made up of these three things. Similarly, every individual or everything is made up of these three things. If we keep it as that, that gives a clarity. That gives a clarity about these three gunas. Okay, so higher nature plus lower nature, sakshi plus ahankara is the nature of any being existing. If you go to the next slide, this is just a reminder to see gunas are not attributes of Prakriti but are its first products and hence substances themselves. The term guna is retained to signify that these substances are eternally dependent because they are dependent on the sakshi. So that is nitya paratantra. They depend on the kshetragna, the conscious self, just as shadows depend on the physical body. Though they bind the body and the mind, Shankaracharya emphasizes the term eva. They bind as though, because we know as Vedanta students that nothing can bind the Sakshi. So as though it binds. Okay. So this much we saw, and the difference between Vedanta and Sankhya we saw. In Sankhya, Prakriti is real and independent. Whereas the way we are moving forward in Vedanta, Prakriti is mithya, it is dependent eternally on Ishvara's Maya Shakti. The next slide we see, this is the gist we have to remember for today. Like, assume we have three children and they are the Satva, Rajas, Tamas. And your objective of going through this Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga will be to understand the essential inevitability of each one of us to own up these three children, but eternally to remember in and through what we are doing, even though we are encouraging them and entertaining them all through, to remember that you are gunatita, you have some other purpose beyond. So it brings joy. The kids brings in joy, but you are different from those kids. Those kids are, yes, they uh, make you a parent, but they are not you. So this is the whole purpose of separating yourself from Prakriti and to see yourself as a gunatita. This is the objective of this chapter. Next, next slide. This is nowadays with this editing, color editing and all, many of us are familiar with this RGB paradigm, where every color can be harnessed or synthesized using these three colors. Same as what happens in our mobile screens, computer screens with RGB values. Red, any color you see will have a value for red, a value for green, a value for blue. And with this, every other color can be synthesized. As we see in the next slide, if you see an orange color, the red is 253 out of 255. Total marks is 255, 0 to 255. Red is 253, green is 126, and blue is 16. If these three are shined on a surface with this intensity proportions, then we see the color orange. So 16.7 million is the total number of colors which are possible, the combinations which are possible with just these three. Similarly, if we think about, if we see a color and if you think about what is color actually, the color is the perception of with our cones, the cells within our retina, within our eye, based on these three values, red, green, and blue. Actually, is there a substance called orange on the surface of the object we are seeing? Nothing is there. It is because of the Sakshi's perception, and because we are so many people and we feel it, our physiology is similar and we all see the same color, we perceive it as orange. But is there an orange on that flag? Actually, no. Similarly, that's the Maya, that's the Prakriti, and that's how we synthesize with our own Sakshi the world around us. In the next slide, we see how the mixture happens with the various gradation of different colors. The whole spectrum, all the millions of colors is possible only by these three uh, colors, the primary colors. So coming back to our analogy in the next slide, it's like having three kids, assume these three school-going kids. So they all look similar. So sattva, rajas, tamas, these three gunas are in different proportions present in everybody. And it's not just in everybody, but in every object, animate, inanimate, plant kingdom, everything. Swamiji says, you can assume that tamasic element, that's a tamas, is highest, like taking it as 00255 for mentioning a blue color, for example. So the sattva is 0, rajas is 0, and tamas is to the maximum. Those things, those objects which have this distribution of gunas fall under the category of inert, stone, an island, a volcano, a galaxy, a bottle, a mobile phone. All this fall into tamasic, tamas, because it does not have its own self-awareness, does not have that vivacity or the capacity to move either internally or externally. You can't imagine a wall to move. That's why the rajas component is 0. Coming to the plant kingdom, there is some rajasic element in that. There is a little bit of self-awareness because it has like touch me not plant. So there is the possibility of movement. There's a possibility of growth outwardly. There's life in it. But it is not to the extent, not as evolved as in the living beings. So Swamiji says this is the next stage where sattva and tamas is to a certain extent, sattva and rajas is to a certain extent, but tamas is still predominant. Plant kingdom. The next is said keep apart the animal kingdom, which is almost similar to humans, but what we see generally is the people around us. Again, among the people, if you have to see, the focus of this chapter, because we are more vyavaharika and we deal more with people, this is a separate, even though we are holistically explaining, it suffices to understand how it reflects when we think about people and how we behave and why we do what we do. So like these, every person can be having sattva predominant, rajo predominant, or tamas predominant nature. Like the school going kids who have different color shirts, but as in the next chapter we see, next slide we see, each of this will have other element also. Like if somebody is sattva predominant, does not mean tamas and rajas is 0. They still have. But our objective will be to make ourselves more sattva predominant, lesser and lesser rajas, and to keep the tamas to the minimum. So this is the gist of from where to where we need to go. So now we know that we have to live with it. So because like without Prakriti, we won't exist. And that's only through Prakriti, like a kaleidoscope, we're reflecting the light which is falling into us. Okay, and then we are different because it's like how the kaleidoscope, just those 2, 3 things which are inside can show in myriads of ways. We are different and unique because of how it works in what proportion within us. So we have to live with it. So better know it better. Well, so we need to know it in full. So this inquiry into three gunas is the whole purpose of this 14th chapter. And in this we saw in the there are 5 topics in this chapter, and in this we saw the first 2 topics of lakshana and bandhana in the earlier verses. What is the definition, the lakshana of sattva? It is prakashatmakam, to know more, pursuit of jnana, to know more. So that is sattva definition. And rajas is ragatmaka, doing tendency, whether it may be like running a marathon or buying something, buying a new dress, or building a temple, or owning a new book, So this is all like accumulation, desire, doing. It may be for good, it may be for your own, it may be selfish, selfless, but it's an activity. Tamo guna is mohanatmakam, that is always in doubt. It's indecisive, not sure what to do, vacillation. That is tamo guna. That's the definition, lakshana part, which we saw. Second one is bandha prakara, how gunas bind a person, the tendency. For what infrastructure these gunas bind? Satva binds a person to quietude, silence, infrastructure suitable for seclusion. As we see in the next slide, what do they prefer to keep? They will be constantly waiting to have a quiet place for a imbibe more, to be more aware, like the boy who is holding a paper to study more. And Rajas craves for karma architecture, like the girl who is holding scissors. So wants to do continuously to do something. Tamas binds to nidra or alasya, like the girl who is holding a stone, doesn't bother about the infrastructure, just want to be alone and not do anything. That is tamasic. So these three are the how these gunas binds a person. And this our whole story, whole society, and our own selves is a mixture of the play of the stone, paper, and scissors. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The next chapter, what we saw the Lakshana, the definition, Bandhana, how it binds the infrastructure, what these people crave for. And the third one is the indicatory mark, the lingam of these. So to identify ourselves to what category we belong, which guna is predominant in ourselves. So Swamiji wants it's not to assess others or label others, it's to know ourselves for our spiritual journey. So how do we know I am sattva predominant? Prakashatmaka, the absorbing capacity will be more. For that, all your senses should be open. So these are the verses which we are going to see today. The rajasic predominant person will be having this greed to achieve more, worldly things, super ambitious, workaholic, whether it may be for selfish reasons or selfless reasons also. But that activity is the underlying thing here. Spruha, ashama, never, always restless, either in body or in mind. At least they will be moving their body, or at least they will be moving their uh, this feet when even in a silent class. Short tempered, strong attachment to their accomplishment. There is just the people who would say, when they say, see, I am a self-made man. So these are, Swamiji says he gets scared when somebody says like that, because those are the people who have that high sense of ego, and they are the rajasic personality. So this is again, as a reminder, we just tend to reflect it on others, but we have to remind always that it's just a barometer to know our proportion, not to assess others, because our objective is to better ourselves, not to know or mark anybody. And the third one is the tamasic, who will be thinking like no problem, either having no problem to themselves, no problem to others. Negligence, carelessness is the defining thing, and there's a delusion, it's constant conflict. So they does not know what he wants to do, and he also is not somebody who follows what has been told, and he doesn't have a concrete idea of what to do further. So that if we have in that kind of indecisive mind what to do in life, and indecisive about every step in life, then we can take that I am tamasic predominant at present. So these are the lingam, the indicatory marks of each, which is very easily comprehensible in a class as in the next slide. Okay. So some people who will be quiet, some people will be very attentive, and people who will be constantly wanting to engage with, communicating with others, extra, doing something. Okay. So with this, we'll start with the verses proper for today. So verse number 11 will be explained by Srimati Vidya.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We have seen in the earlier classes that for the sake of the analysis of the three gunas, it is divided into 5 topics: definition, mode or bandhana, mode or method of bondage or bandhana, lingam, gatihi, and phalam. Now we are entering the third topic of this chapter, lingam, in this verse, meaning the indicatory marks or the clue to find out the sattva guna predominant person. Now coming to the verse, sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyad vivridham sattvam ityuta. The verse meaning goes like this: when the light of knowledge beams through all the same sense organs in this body, then one should know that sattva is predominant. In this verse, sattva lingam is being analyzed. Lord Krishna here says, Asmin dehe sarva dvareshu prakashaha. Next slide, please. Asmin dehe sarva dvareshu prakashaha upajayate. Asmin dehe, in this body, prakashaha upajayate. Light shines here. Dvara means the holes indicating the 5 sense organs. Dvarani means indriyani, and they are called dvaram because through these sense organs alone, we gather the knowledge of the external world. Shabda jnanam through strotram, drishyam through the eyes, smell through the nose, sarva dvareshu through all the sense organs, prakashaha meaning brightness, the absorbing capacity. When all the 5 sense organs are bright and alert and have great absorbing capacity, and then they are able to acquire knowledge faster. The jnanis are very active and efficient, indicating that sattva is pradhana or predominant in their nature. Therefore, prakashaha upajayate. Here, prakashaha means light of jnanam. Jnana vritti has to take place with the open sense organs. Not only sense organs must be open, but also the mind must generate jnana vritti, which Lord Krishna calls prakashaha. So jnanam in the second line is the meaning of the word prakashaha given by Lord Krishna himself. When the light of knowledge arises, tada jnana prakashena lingena, then one listens more, reads more, understands more. When this happens, it is a sign of the dominance of the sattva guna, a quality ideal for jnana yoga. Vidyat, may you know. Vivriddham means dominant. It uta api, may you understand. The 45th verse of the second chapter also refers to this quality. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Vedas do talk about material accomplishments. But what does a karma yogi do? Nistraigunyo bhava, nishkamo bhava, reducing kamya karmas, meaning they do not give undue importance to artha kama fulfillment. Among the purusharthas, dharma and moksha should be given utmost priority. Inner growth leading to spiritual wisdom should be the primary goal, transcending the lower goals. Nirdvandvo bhava means accepting the pairs of opposite, strengthening the mind to such an extent that one can withstand the ups and downs of life. Nitya sattvasto bhava. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna directly that one has to maintain the sattva guna, indicating the viveka shakti, the discriminative power, the awareness that dharma and moksha are important, which is called Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. Niryoga Kshema Bhava. Drop your concern about your yoga kshemam by surrendering to the Lord. Next slide. Atmavan Bhava. Atmavan means be alert and aware in life. Next slide, please. The 22nd verse of the 9th chapter 2 speaks of this bhav in the Satva guna people. Ananyas chintayontam mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Those people who see me as non different from them offer worship by dwelling on me. Take care of the yoga. So I take care. Lord Krishna is giving the vouching here that I take care of the yoga and shema of those ever steadfast ones. Our whole study of Drishya Viveka focuses on claiming the Sakshi Bhav, the ultimate destination of all the spiritual seekers. So we have to understand that our body is like a lamp placed within the box, filled with glasses of various hues. Its light shines through all the glasses. The intensity of the light adds to the brilliance pouring out. Next slide, please. Human body is compared to the box. The sense organs are the gateways for the light of the self within to beam into view. While in Sattva, the effulgence of the self is at its highest. And this is evinced by the functioning of the senses. In the act of seeing, there is sharpness. In hearing, there is alertness. In performing an action, there is precision. All the senses function pleasantly at their best. These are the marks of the predominance of Sattva as elaborated by this verse. Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Has been a significant introduction done by Dr. Komal, where very beautifully explained about the three gunas and their interaction, giving an example of the three basic colors which can create all kinds of combination. And as we have already known in the Gunatriya Vibhaga Yoga, Krishna is talking about the Prakriti or the gunas. So if you look at a jiva, what makes a jiva is the Atma Tattvam, which is the Sakshi Tattvam, which is the Chaitanyam Tattvam, which has got no attributes. When it mixes with the three gunas, which are the Prakriti, the nature, which is also embedded in the universe, which are, as we described initially in the previous two expressions, Satva, Rajas, and Tamas. And what adds to all this is the sense of I-ness, which we call as ahankara. As long as the ahankara is, the guna will reflect while we are in the vyavaharika world, and desires will continue to create karma, and which will continue to result in karma phala, and the jiva remains a bhokta, which is also called as the pravritti marga in the Kathopanishad. Next slide, please. So the verse which describes the rajas, lobha pravitarambha karmanashamaha spraha rajasyetani jayante vivradhe bharata sharba. Bharata sharba is, of course, Arjuna. So the first word is lobha, greed, pravritti, which is your activity, and the commencement of the work, karmanam arambha. Arambha means to initiate. Karmanam, of course, is the plural of karmas. Ashama, restlessness. Spraha, the craving. Etani jayante. Ja, the word ja means to be born, that creates, that appear. Rajasi vivrade. When the rajas is predominant, all these things happen. What? Greed, activity, commencement of works, restlessness and craving. These appear when rajas is predominant. So in an individual, and I think most of us are rajas pradhana, although we are trying to accumulate and understand what is sattva. And I think the inward growth happens of a jiva when he starts understanding these gunas, what gunas are active in that individual at a certain time. All of us have gone through the periods of tamas, rajas, and sattva, but one of them is predominant. And most of this country where we live in is very rajas predominant. You can see it everywhere in our vyavahara. while we interact in the world around us, especially in this country. Next slide, please. The knowledge of the word or understanding of the word enters our mind through the indriyas, which is what was described in the previous verse, which is the 5 gates. Now, I feel, and I have sort of tried to contemplate on this aspect, which is the mananam I have done, that the perception of the world or the world around, which gives us the quality of being a person who has a name and form, that perception is also subject to our gunas, or according to that, we perceive the world. So a rajasic person will perceive the world according to the rajas predominant concept of learning and jnana or shabda jnana, and he will talk in the language of that predominant understanding as he has perceived this world through his indriyas. So if he is tamas pradhana, he will gain a lot of points from the tamas. If he is sattva pradhana, we always look at the sattva aspect, and his mind will be created on the basis of that perception. And if he is rajas pradhana, he will create on that. But now, it is not that it has become a permanent affair. It can be changed. But when does it change? Once the knowledge of self through shastras is obtained, know that sattva is now predominant. This was described in the previous verse as Dr. Vidya talked about. Now, the 12th verse, which says that those people, those who have predominant rajas, are spraha, means strong attachment to their accomplishment. They're attached to their egos. Next slide, please. So the rajas predominant prakriti leads to a lot of action. A desire to fulfill the cravings of the worldly accomplishments. Lobha means inordinate greed to achieve, leads to beginning of action, which is called as karmanam arambha. Because if you have strong desire to achieve, you will have to do some action. And that leads to a lot of activity. There would be a lot of restlessness, especially if the karma phala is resulting in unhappiness, and it is a possibility that the result will not be good. So you're attached to your results also. And that leads to the anxiety and anxiety disorders. And such people consider that to be the state of predominant rajas or Arjuna. All the ignorant and passionate seeking of life belong to the rajasic mode of nature. Hari Om Sir.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verse 14.13. In verses 14.11 to 14.13, Shri Krishna highlights the lingam or the indicators of all the 3 guna pradhanis. In this verse, he focuses on the tamoguna pradhani. The verse goes like this: Aprakasho pravrittischa pramado moha evacha tamasyetani jayante vivriddhe kurunandana. Dullness, inaction, negligence, and delusion. These appear when tamas is predominant, O Arjuna. The word meanings go like this: Prakashaha, dullness; apravritti, inaction; pramada, negligence; evacha moha, and delusion; etani jayante, these appear; tamasi vivriddhe, when tamas is predominant; kurunandana, O Arjuna. In this verse, the lingam or indicators of a tamasic person is discussed. When we see these indicators in a person, then we infer that he or she is a tamasic person. Sri Shankaracharya asks why we need to infer from the indicators. Can't we see the person and know which guna is predominant? Gunas are not always pratyaksham or perceptible. Hence, we need to infer from the indicators. For example, if we cannot see the fire, then we have to infer from the presence of smoke that there is a fire. Swami Paramatmanandaji describes the traits of a tamoguna pradhani. A tamoguna pradhani suppresses sattva guna. Hence, all the jnanendrayas are dull. Therefore, there is dullness or aprakashaha due to lack of sattva guna. Hence, he is not able to understand or comprehend correctly. A tamoguna pradhani suppresses Rajoguna also. Hence, the karmendriyas are dull. Therefore, there is apravritti or inaction due to lack of Rajoguna. He will make mistakes if he is forced to do any activity. Pramada is negligence, which leads to carelessness and mistakes. And moha is delusion, which leads to conflict, procrastination, lack of clarity in thought and goals. Swamiji also gives the meanings from the Bhashyam. These are 4 of the indicators of tamoguna: non-action, wrong action, non-understanding, and wrong understanding. So why is the analysis of gunas important? Swami Padmatmanandaji says that learning about gunas is not to judge others or for us to compare ourselves and get a complex. It is for us to understand where we are in our spiritual journey and to progress by doing the right sadhanas. A person who is a tamo guna pradhana can never go directly to sattva guna pradhana. He has to go to rajoguna and then to sattva guna. The scriptures prescribe sakama karma for the tamasic person. Sakama karma is karma with selfish motives, which can motivate him to become a rajoguna pradhani. From sakama karma, he will progress to nishkama karma by remaining in rajoguna. So he travels from the lower rajoguna to the higher rajoguna pradhana. After karma yoga is practiced, scriptures prescribe sattva guna pradhana life, where upasana is the sadhana. Here, he becomes less active and concentrates on spirituality. By practicing karma yoga and upasana yoga, he moves from tamas to rajas to sattva guna. Only in sattva guna pradhana, he can take up jnana yoga. In this verse, Sri Krishna concludes the third topic, verse 14.14. In the last 3 verses, we saw the lingam or the indicators of the different guna pradhanis. In this verse, Sri Krishna introduces the 4th topic with respect to the analysis of the gunas. This topic is called gati or travel after life. Verse 14.14 describes the journey of a person who is predominantly satvic in nature when he dies. The verse goes like this. Yada satve pravriddetu pralayam yati dehabriha tadotama vidam lokan amalan pratipadyate. If a person dies when sattva is predominant, then he attains those pure worlds belonging to the upasakas of great deities. The word meanings go like this. Yadatu, if, deha brihat, a person, yati pralayam, dies, sattve pravridde, when sattva is predominant, tada, then, pratipadyate, he attains, amalan lokan, those pure worlds, uttama vidam, belonging to the upasakas of great deities. So let us first understand what kind of a person Sri Krishna is referring to. Deha Brit is a person or a jivatma. So is he an ajnani or a jnani? He is an ajnani because a jnani does not travel at death. All the 3 sharirams of the jnani dissolve and he attains videha mukti or liberation. He is a sattva guna pradhana ajnani who travels to purer and higher lokas because of his sattva guna predominance at the time of death. The ajnani traveler is the chidabhasa sahita sukshma shariram, not the original atma, which is all pervading and does not travel. So what is sattva guna? Sattva guna is characterized by virtues like knowledge, love, peace, and harmony. So where does the jivatma travel? He travels to the higher lokas or realms, urdhva lokas, which are above the bhuloka. These include Bhuvarloka, Swarloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, or Brahmaloka. These lokas are attained by Uttamvit Upasakas. Upasakas are followers or seekers of great deities. They are Saguna Ishvara Upasakas. So These higher lokas are like the heavens. In each of these lokas are different deities and beings living out their karmic trajectories. This illustrates the law of karma, where one's destiny is determined by the dominant guna at the time of death. So, guna determines desire, and desire determines punarjanma. Therefore, guna determines punarjanma. Concluding, those beings in the higher realms have attained a temporary spiritual liberation due to their positive merits or punya. But once the merits of punya is exhausted, then they have to come back to the lower lokas. However, the highest goal in human life is moksha, where there is liberation from the cycle of birth and death, or punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Here, the jivatma unites with the paramatma. This is the ultimate goal everyone should strive for. Thank you. Hari Om.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The direction of travel after death is discussed in the next two verses. We learned that in 14.14, if a person dies when Satva is predominant, he attains pure worlds belonging to the Upasakas of the highest. In the verse 14.15, next slide, sir. In the verse 14.15, the travel of both Tamoguna and Rajoguna Pradhana Purusha is dealt. Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangaishu jayate tata pralinas tamasi muda yogi yonishu jayate. Pralayam, next slide, sir. Pralayam gatva. Pralayam. Next slide, sir. Pralayam gatva, that is pralayam, that is maranam, having died and left physical body, who rajasic pradhana person, what happens? Jayate, he will certainly be reborn, where having died when rajoguna is prominent, karma sangaishu, in a loka where people are given lot of karma. That is karma pradhana loka. Karma pradhana loka is manushya loka. The higher lokas are only bhoga, where one cannot acquire punyam or papam. They can only exhaust their karmas. Similarly, in lower lokas, one can only exhaust karma, and earning karma is not possible there. So, in both the higher and the lower lokas, earning karma is not possible. Next slide, sir. Manushya lokeshu. They are in Bhuloka. Their travel is not vertical but horizontal. Satva guna pradhani person will go higher up. Tamoguna pradhani person go down. And Rajoguna person will hover around in middle loka, that is Manushya loka. So, karma sangaishu manushya lokeshu jayate. Next word is tata pralina. That is, suppose a person dies. Pralayam prapya. Pralina means maranam prapya. Who? To who? Tamasi. When tamoguna prominent person dies, then muda yonishu jayate. That person is reborn in lower planes of existence. The Sapta Lokas are Atala, Vithala, Suthala, Rasathala, Mahathala, Talathala, Patala Keshu. Even if they are born in Bhuloka, they will be born as animals and plants. They will not get Manushya Janma, means they will not have free will to acquire fresh karmas. Hence, they are called Muda Yoni, means Buddhi is not evolved. So, the complete meaning of this verse is, having died when Rajas is prominent, one is born amidst of those who are attached to the action. Likewise, having died when Tamas is prominent, one is born in the wombs of deluded beings. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrika, for that literal explanation of Gati, where will Tamoguna prominent person will be led to beyond death, where will be a Satva guna prominent person will be led to, where a Rajas guna prominent person will be led after death. So where will be the Gnani's place? Where will Gnani go? Gnani, because he is a Gunatita, he has no place in the higher loka, lower loka, or in the same bhuloka. Because he is a Gnani, he is a Gunatita, and this Gatihi as well as Phalam, the other two aspects which will be dealt with in the further verses in this chapter, are for the Agnani Bhakta, if we can consider, where will, if he still has time to comprehend that Gunatita aspect. So these are of interest to that Agnani Bhakta. Okay. So if those technical terminologies are a little difficult, I was just imagining as Dr. Chandrakala was speaking, imagine popcorn being popped in a roadside shop. So what the person will be doing, he will be making that sound, and that it will be few of that when it reaches a sufficient heat, it pops up and goes to a higher loka above. And those which are half popped will fall again in the same level. And what does the person do? He will again lift it and put it into the oven in that bowl, so that they are again goes through the punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, until they exhaust their karmas to reach the higher loka. And those the bad ones which doesn't even make an attempt to go anywhere will be discarded below to the adholoka, the lower lokas, which she mentioned as 7 lokas. So this is a paradigm, as I said, of gunas, to imagine about our RGB, the colors as we saw, as we see in the slide. All of us, we have to keep that. It is a kind of a reminder for ourselves what we are doing, why we are doing, who we are, what is it which is guiding me to do something which I am doing. So this is the whole purpose, and to always keep in our mind that I am a gunatita. These are the ones that we are going to see later. Guna vartante, that is, gunas will play, and you play along with, fully knowing that you are not gunas. You are beyond that. Okay? So these are the 5 things which we saw, which we are going to see. We saw the lakshana, bandhana, and in this class we saw about the lingam, the indicatory marks, and we started to see the gati, and then further we are going to see the phalam. What is the phalam? Swamiji brings in very discrete ideologies which are very difficult on the superficial level to understand. Our Vedic structure, which is there in our Sanatana Dharma, which is touched upon in Tattva Buddha, about our Varnashrama categorization. As we see in the next slide, we can see there are 4 ashramas we have seen. What is that? Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So Swamiji links here what is the predominant guna in each of the ashrama. These ashramas are not just social construct, it also has a bearing about how we get more and more refined as we mature in our biological age, going towards from inactivity in the brahmacharya. We have to remember here that inactivity is not just like sleeping in the class or being lazy. It can be any activity for which you have no motive, either for the self good or for selfless good of others. You just play. Life is a journey. You enjoy today. FOMO. You are going to miss it. You are going to miss it. So you do it. Don't miss a moment. Life is a journey. That kind of people, that kind of attitude in which anyway I am going today, that kind of nihilism in which anyway I am temporary, I am going today, enjoy today. That's being happy. Always having in a corner of our mind that fear of impermanence. That is actually inactivity in a way, because you are just trying to be happy, trying to be doing something like that boy in rain is doing, playing in a paper boat. No purpose, just enjoying that moment. That is also, what can we call it? Is it rajasic? Not even rajasic. It is actually tamasic. From that, we will start having a purpose when we have a family, gruhastha. Your intention there is to help self, your own well-being as of today, as for tomorrow, for your family. When it's raining, you will be interested to keep the family under shelter of an umbrella. That's a gruhastha. The third level will be vanaprastha, where you will have selfless activity. You can see in the next slide these specifications for these ashramas. Selfless activity comes in that vanaprastha level, where you will be building a shelter for people to take rest when, like in this example, when it rains, for the good of the society, to make the people aware of this eternal knowledge. You make YouTube presentations, or you make a shibira, or you make an ashrama. So this is for not for your own good. It's not just for your own good. It's for selfless interest of everybody in the society community. That's the third level, vanaprastha. Fourth level comes beyond this. There's no activity there. It comes to the inquiry. You're not bothered about the rain of samsara. You are enjoying, relishing in that Satva, Rajas, Tamas interplaying all around you, like the 16.7 million colors I said. You're enjoying that in the rain, all through trying to understand, doing an inquiry about your true nature. That comes in the sannyasa ashrama. Similarly, Swamiji also links it to the four varnas also, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. For the tamas predominant, selfless activity predominant, that's Kshatriya, selfish activity predominant, as well as devoting your life for internal inquiry. So this is the gist of how the gunas, the paradigm of gunas is brought in by Sri Krishna in this whole chapter, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, to give us a context about our activity, about our inactivity, selfish, selfless, and to have that inquiry and to be a gunatita. So these are the areas we are seeing. As I said, like we saw the Lakshana, Bandhana, Lingam we saw in this class, and Gati we saw, and then we are going to see Phalam later. With that, we come to the end of today's verses, and over to Nitaji. Thank you.
Pranams to Dr. Komal and pranams to all the speakers of the day. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us Swamiji's talks on a platter. Now an appeal. As you all are aware, Param Vedanta has been offering Guru Dakshina to our Gurus twice a year, during Guru Purnima and during Gita Jayanti. As part of these offerings, you have been part of these offerings, and we are grateful for that. This year, Guru Purnima falls on the 10th of July, and the window is open for us to offer our gratitude. The decision to donate is purely voluntary. Please note the amount of your offering will be totally, that will be collected, will be sent to the Gurus. The mode of payment and the account details are displayed on the screen. It is also being sent to you in all the groups, including Telegram. Overseas listeners, please note that the Guru Dakshina cannot be offered, can be offered only in the Indian account. You will receive, all of you will receive a receipt through your email. Therefore, it's important that you fill the Google form. Param Vedanta thanks its listeners. We meet Excellent. We meet on 10th of July for a special session of Guru Purnima curated by the team. And then we meet on Friday, 11th of July for the next session of Drigdrishya Viveka, session 9. We conclude today's session with our prayers. Please chant along. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om